This is Just Listen, hosted by George. Today is June 30th, 2025. Hopefully, everybody is staying cool. It's been pretty hot in the Metro East here. Today, I want to talk about the U.S. government policy on Congress passing the big, beautiful bill. I want to focus on how the bill is interpreted after passed. I want to talk about raising taxes on wind and solar projects and blend the first thing I said about how the bill is interpreted and the process of passing the bill, and then who's losing funding and adjustments. Now, I'm going to blend some of these together because if I go through all of these, I'll be talking maybe 20 minutes. Okay, so it got my attention on the big beautiful bill. As you are aware, it is in the Senate right now, and they're looking at voting on it and passing it. Now, if they make changes, major changes, then it has to go back to the House of Representatives, so everybody knows that. What I want to really highlight is some of the things that are in the bill. So, it would slash federal support for Medicaid by 930 billion over a decade. And then the House version of that was 800 billion. So it's between 800 to 930 billion. Now think about something that gets lost in the translation. It's over a decade. So divide 10 into that, and if you say it in the soundbite and you leave that out, then you're talking about people getting upset. Now, I'm going to tell you why I was talking about this in a second. Also, get this. I'm surprised that people aren't protesting. Both chambers will require certain able-bodied adults between 19 and 64 to work to maintain their Medicaid benefits for the first time in the program's 60-year history. Now, the Senate version, if they change it, would impose a work requirement on parents of children ages 14 and older, while the House version would exempt parents of dependent children. Okay, so they can work out those details. But see, I'm giving you details. Over the weekend, as usual, I watched some of the news shows and they gloss over it, maybe mention a second, and then hit their point. Man, we're spending a lot of money. Now, having able bodied adults work to maintain their Medicaid benefits, I actually thought that they already had that. They did not. Now, people are upset about this. Why? Because it requires you to make an effort and to actually work to get Medicaid. That's pretty powerful that someone would be against that. Okay, so also, uh, existing work requirement to those ages 55 to 64, as well as parents of children between the ages of 7 and 18. So it will require states for the first time to pay for a portion of the benefit cost, at least 5%, and as much as 25%, depending on their payment error rates. So that is getting into the details for food stamps. Okay, 55 to 64, as well as parents of children between the ages of 7 and 18. They have to work to get this entitlement. And like I said previously with the other one, people are upset about that and they think that it's the end of the world. And also, the Congress says that the states should be more involved. Here's why. I live in Illinois. Illinois gives out great benefits. Why? Because the federal government was subsidizing it. So if the federal government puts less money into the SNAP slash food stamp program, the states have to do a budget and then they can't afford to give it away. And then they're going to have more requirements for people to stay on that. So the other one is the bill will require certain recipients ages 19 to 64 to work, volunteer, enroll in school, or participate in job training at least 80 hours a month for the first time in Medicaid's history. So the two or three things that I have read about Medicaid, food stamps, and these two huge entitlement programs are expectations of people to not just sit around and just get the money. Volunteer, enroll in school, and that would have a domino effect because some of these nonprofits like the pantries, they need volunteers to work in there, people to work in the dog shelters, stuff like that. So it gives people, it keeps them busy, it keeps them active. And why would someone be against that? Okay, and so that is the flavor of what the Senate and House proposals are. And in addition to that, I highlighted that because Medicaid, what Congress is actually trying to do is get illegal immigrants off of the system. Food stamp program, same thing. Because when people are coming into the country, they are applying for these benefits. And so that was the only way that they could work it in was to, in general, talk about reducing funding for it, right? Because you can't go after illegal immigrants directly and say, hey, well, if it's them, we're not going to pay for it. What you have to do is require people to be working, and then you can scrutinize people who are applying, why they're applying, and then get them to actually do something. Okay, so far, I'm making the case that the big, beautiful bill is actually on target to help the American taxpayer. Now, I want to dig into how the bill is interpreted after pass. And I'm saying that because the bill is 940 pages. Now, it would have taken me probably 6 weeks, well, not 6 weeks, maybe 2 weeks to read through everything. Now, remember, this is, I'll call it lawyer speak. So the regular person has to read it 4 or 5 times to see what they are actually talking about and the impact. And as you know, a lot of when this law is passed, there's going to be tons of challenges. Here's why. So with Planned Parenthood, they are reducing the amount of money that they are funding in that program. And they're going to be spending a lot of time interpreting the law, going through the court system, and all of that stuff. Another hit is, well, it's not even a hit. It's leveling out taxes on wind and solar projects. Before, the solar companies and also wind, electric cars, The manufacturers were getting subsidized millions of dollars. And all the government is trying to do is cut them off. Now, I will say that if you buy like a new electric car, they were giving you some kind of tax credit for it and all of those things. And I think the solar panels too, but they were so expensive that they kind of had to. And remember, the manufacturers, they were getting the bulk of the money because people weren't getting back like $10,000, but the manufacturers were getting millions of dollars back because the funding was like 40, 50 million dollars. Now, the blend that I want to talk about is how we're passing the bills and the back and forth. Now, if you watch the news and the media, they make a big deal out of, oh my God, it's like the end of the world if this passes. And you can check me out on this, like I always say. Go back to the Clinton administration. Go back to the Obama administration. When Clinton balanced that budget, for the news agencies went after the Congress and the administration that it was a ruckus, life as we know it would end, etc. And during the Obama administration, when they passed the Affordable Care Act, Health Act, there was a ruckus about that too. So my point is, only the faces have changed. And Congress does what they think is best for the country at the time. And whoever is in charge, they get to make the rules. And I really wish when the reporting is done that they put that out there. Okay, change is coming, and once they pass this as law, the only way that you can change it is if the next Congress tries to repeal it. And I haven't seen anything repealed probably in the last 50 years. What they would probably do is increase funding again. But so it's not, this isn't unusual for Congress to be in an uproar. Let's not make it into such a huge deal because people are going to disagree. That is natural. So I think that I've laid the case that we need to dig into the details of the big, beautiful bill and really understand what it's doing, why it's happening, and who they are really looking at trying to get off of some of these programs. This is Just Listen, hosted by George. Let me know what you think and also subscribe. And as promised, finally, in the next 2 weeks, I'll be going live. We moved and I've just been so busy. So, see you next time.